Hey everybody, time for another Soul Talk Jam with Kathy. So I thought that while today I have no clients, I would just record a bunch of videos and start get this thing rolling on YouTube, talking about the soul. So what I'm going to do right now in this particular clip is I want to introduce you to the voice of the ego itself. Several years ago, when I started going through the journey of the redemption of ego back to the soul, and I know redemption is a very religiously weighty word, but it is my purpose to redeem the word redemption, okay? Because it's nothing about religion, okay? It's about restoration. Anyway, let's continue. So several years back, when my deep soul started calling me deeper, my soul guided me to many conversations and communication over a decade-long period of time with ego consciousness. My ego, as well as the ego at large within humans. And so we all express that in different ways. And we'll talk about that more in the future. But for today, I wanted to start out with 3 poems that I downloaded well over, probably, I'm going to say close to 15 years ago or more, when my personal journey in this way began with ego. And ego was telling me all about its, perceptions and perspectives and programs that it runs by and what happened and the forgetfulness that it's been in. And so that's where the journey began for me, the ego journey and the deeper soul journey. So what I want to do today is I want to read to you through these 3 poems. And the first one is entitled, I Forgot. Because, after all, ego has been in forgetfulness for a long, long time. That means we have been in forgetfulness because humans primarily, first and foremost, know ego much better than we know the deep soul. In fact, the ego has been in such deep forgetfulness that it has forgotten for a long, long time that it actually is part of the deep soul. But at some point, whatever happened, that part of the soul had a vibrational fall, so to speak, and came to surface. And so now, ego aspect, ego consciousness can only operate at the surface level of our lives and not the deeper levels within. So the first poem that ego downloaded to me was entitled, I Forgot. Ego in Forgetfulness. There is a part of me that is perfect, but I forgot. And in my forgetfulness, I felt naked without perfection. So I donned myself with an ego suit. I forgot that there's a part of me that is pure and whole and well without flaw, dysfunction, illness, or disease. I just simply forgot that part of myself. And the ego suit got really heavy. And it wore me down as I forgot my wholeness. I have forgotten my original nature and the essence of what my original nature even feels like. I have forgotten that sense of perfection and the comfort of wholeness and wellness. I forgot that there's a part of me that experiences that and is that. I just simply forgot. I forgot about the part of myself that is pure light, pure consciousness, and correct mindfulness. I have forgotten to trust that part of myself, and instead, I plugged in to many pseudo forms of power and strength that have actually only drawn me deeper into forgetfulness. I forgot the part of me that's not physical, biological, and confined to the 5 human senses, but the part of me that's pure energy, pure light, and pure love. I have forgotten my spirit, my soul, and my heart. I forgot. And in my forgetfulness, Instead of perfection and pureness, I learned to believe that I am impure and far from perfect, that I'm broken and I need fixed. So I feel guilty and ashamed for being so impure and imperfect. And then you know what? Then I go through life trying to prove that I'm not impure and imperfect anymore. Right? Wow, what a conundrum. I forgot the pureness of mind, the joy of emotions, and the harmony of body. And in my forgetfulness, my mind became dark and confused. My emotions became whirlwinds of drama, sometimes even frozen as pain crystallized and paralyzed my warm heart. And my body, well, my body responded with illness and disease because forgetfulness began residing in my cells. I forgot that I am energy body before I am physical body. I am spirit before I am flesh. And I forgot that the energy that I am is light. I forgot that the light of my original nature is the light of my path in this life. And when that light becomes dim because I've forgotten, I can't see clearly and I get lost. I forgot how to shine with my own light. When I get lost, it feels really dark and I get scared because, you know, things go bump in the night, right? I can't see what's around me. Maybe there's monsters here inside of me. Maybe I've got demons. Well, my fear becomes a dark reality at that point. But all the while, all that was really there was the light that I am. But I forgot that part of myself, so I believed in fear and I acted in fear. The words of my mouth became fear. And that fear poisoned me with dysfunction of body, mind, and emotions. Boy, that ego suit really got heavy. And it has caused a very deep forgetfulness. That ego suit is my forgetfulness. But now, I choose to strip myself of forgetfulness and instead stand naked in the light of my divine and original nature. It has been a deep forgetfulness, and I have suffered mortally from that sense of loss of my divine nature. Haven't we all? It has been a deep forgetfulness. We have all mortally suffered because we have forgotten about our divine nature. But now, I remember. This is ego talking, okay? Now I remember. I remember that there is that part of me. It's just a hint of remembrance, but enough to open up to it and to welcome myself back home to the deep soul. So to my soul, me, Kathy, I say, I'm sorry, I forgot. I know it was part of the plan, but geez, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I love my soul. I love me as a soul. And I love my ego now too, because it's coming back home. So now I open, I reconnect, and I rejoin and reintegrate with my original nature, which is perfection, wellness, wholeness, pure consciousness, correct mindfulness, and my original body of light. Lights. Once upon a time, I forgot. But now I remember. Take a nice deep breath. I'm surprised that I didn't break out in tears. I read this poem quite often at the beginning of most of the classes that I offer because it's true for all of us. We have been in a deep, deep, long era, eons and eons of time of forgetfulness. So the next writing that I downloaded from the Voice of Ego is the ego's perception and what it became after going totally into the darkness of forgetfulness. And this poem is entitled, I Am Ego in Strife. I am a force, and I am a mechanism with the function of contrast and fear. I am separate-minded. I see things as one way or the other, and rarely in between. It's either or, and don't you cross those lines, baby. It's right or wrong and nothing in between. You can't walk the middle of the road, girl, you'll get run over. It's black or white, and don't blur the lines. I don't understand your views and perspectives, and I don't want to. My view and my perspectives work just fine for me. I'm usually right and you're usually wrong anyway, so you need to just adjust your views and perspectives to that of mine, and then everything will be much better in the world. Hello, United States, are we hearing this? I have no interest in overlapping or merging our separate worlds through acts of or thoughts of unity. So you just stay in your world and I'll stay in mine, and things will be just fine. But listen, in doing this, me, ego, my function serves a higher purpose. Listen on. I am dual in nature. I am split. I am split from whole soul and only conscious of my half. I only see me. But somewhere very deep inside, I do remember there's another part of me, but I don't recognize it or understand it. So it must be an enemy, right? And not an ally. So this thing I can't remember, I fight it, I resist it, and it causes frustration within me. Because even though I feel it drawing me, it feels threatening to me. And that's why I consider it an enemy. Therefore, I project that frustration and that fear outward, away from me and onto you. I turn outward away from my wholeness. And as a result, I reinforce the function of me against you and you against me. I fight to be win and be proven right, says ego. But in doing this, my function serves a higher purpose. Hang in there. I am bipolar. I can take you to vistas of personal accomplishment and success 1 minute, and in the very next minute cast you down with despair at suicidal speed. And in that motion between the up and the down and the back and the forth, I create whirlwinds of drama that virtually make your head swim and spin. I am delightfully gleeful, superficial, and overconfident. But I fly too high into that superficial air and I can't breathe. So I begin to spiral downward into the abyss of dark romance so I can feel something. I am the essence of the dark romance. I have the cunning and the ability to draw you into a romance with suffering. Suffering, a romance with suffering. The music of unrequited love, rejection, and victimization plays on and on as we dramatically move our feet across the floor, wrapping our energies around each other in a mournful dance. The movements of dark emotion bewail the ballad of our flight to the dark side of the moon. But in doing all this, my function serves a higher purpose, says ego. I am the mechanism and the force behind every war, every conflict, and every form of competition. I am the mechanism and force behind the dominating global structures of greed and systems that create everyday reality as we know it, from political showdowns and politics as usual, to corporate competition, greed-oriented financial systems, and most forms of stardom and high-level recognition. I set the bar for whatever it takes to get to the top, including backstabbing, backbiting, gossiping, lying, destroying the lives of others, and even killing. Because if I can step on you, crush you, or burn you out, then I get to the top faster, where there's more for me and mine. Woo, baby, you hearing this? I form the structures of thought and belief that keep the world and humanity in conflict with one another and in disharmony with nature. I am the separation of humanity from nature, from natural law, and from the love of the divine. But in doing it all, I'm serving a higher purpose. Oh, good question you ask. What is my purpose? What is my higher purpose? My higher purpose in all my various functions is to point. I keep pointing, but you don't see what I'm pointing to. You only see me, the messenger, the rascal, the trickster, the troublemaker, the opposition. And those reflections I provide of who you are not and what you don't want and the contrast that I bring, that's all you see. But all of these dynamics are me, ego, pointing. I keep operating in my highest function to point to my better half, the soul, the wholeness, the wellness. I'm pointing to the heart and soul. And it's the heart I want to come back home to, because I know that's my way back to the deep soul, through the heart. I am you, perceiving, reacting, and responding at extremely low levels of consciousness. I am you at less than half a tank. When you see who you are not and what you don't want, those experiences that I'm providing are meant to point out who you really are and what you really do want. Those experiences, other than who you are simply reflections, an image that is actually opposite of who you really are. I am ego. That's some pretty powerful stuff. And so, those first two came real close together years and years ago. And as I began now supporting and teaching others about what I've learned in the last 15 to 20 years on this soul and ego journey, I often get very emotional because I've lived it and I remember, and I sometimes still feel the sorrow and sadness of the ego out in the greater world. It's all well with my soul in here. But nonetheless, as I was writing those first 2 years ago, excuse me, and I started going on my own journey, then just a couple of years ago, I said to my soul and my ego redeemed, I said, oh, wait a minute. In sharing these perspectives of the ego with people that are also now going on the same type of journey, it seems like I'm leaving it in a dark place with that poem, Ego and Strife. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And so, lo and behold, what do you think happened? Like a couple days after that, I unzipped the file that was already in me that got downloaded years and years ago until it was ready for me to pass on. And so the poem came, the last one, entitled, I Am Ego Redeemed. So again, this is all the voice of ego and its perceptions and perspectives about what's been going on. I am ego redeemed. For more than eons of time, I lived in forgetfulness. And due to that deep forgetfulness, I forgot my true essence. I lived in strife, duality, competition, exaggeration, and loads of drama for all that time. Drama is one of your number one keys that you're engaging with or projecting ego consciousness. Unnecessary drama. Lots of it around. So I reacted instead of responding. I mentally and emotionally overcompensated and lived with a sense of competition due to insecurity. And I exaggerated pretty much everything in the mind and the emotional bodies. I became quite the trickster. I tricked human beings into believing that they should be ashamed and feel guilty for enjoying life and returning to the natural ways instead of working hard and being aggressive. So let me find my place here. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that last sentence. I became quite the trickster. I tricked humans into believing they should be ashamed and feel guilty for enjoying life and returning to the natural ways instead of working hard and being aggressive. I taught them to believe that striving, competing, deception, and exaggeration were the best ways to live and to get ahead in life. I taught them to live in fear and to constantly doubt themselves. But I was redeemed. I was restored when I came back home to the heart. After eons of struggle and strife, I heard the call of the heart, my original partner into the soul, where there's higher consciousness that can be experienced. It had been so long since I heard my heart's voice and felt that warmth. And being of a suspicious nature, in my limitations, I doubted the voice at first. I thought I was being deceived by that soft, quiet inner voice. But I was redeemed to my original nature when I came back home to the heart. How did I even survive? How did that happen? How did I survive that long without the influence of my heart's wisdom and strength? How did I manage to stay alive with barely a connection to the soul? How did I ever even survive that strife, conflict, and chaos, which became my fallen nature? I have no idea, except it must have been grace and mercy upholding me during that long era of forgetfulness and dysfunction. My heart never held it against me or blamed me for any of it. Rather, my heart lifted me up. It brought me back to heart consciousness. My heart helped me realize that I had never been abandoned or rejected. Therefore, neither was I a victim as I formerly had perceived. I realized that my perceptions, perspectives, and my approach to life were warped and dysfunctional. Dysfunction became my familiar home for all that time. But when I was redeemed as part of the whole heart and soul, remembrance returned. And now I'm rejoicing again. Now I remember that my primary role as ego is managing the mind's thought awareness and navigating the world of games in the third dimension. I can do that, but even better now that I'm back home and have support of the heart's wisdom and the soul's insight. I remember that my role in creation processes are by sending my electrical signals to the magnetic fields of my heart. I also remember that it has never been my role to make decisions and choices. That's the heart and soul's business. I simply provide the information, the data, and the memories, but the heart and the soul know best what to do with all of that. So now I no longer live with guilt, shame, competition, and fear. I'm not a victim. and neither are you. Now, I live in forgetfulness of all that bullshit. The shame and the guilt and the blaming and the victimization. I don't even hardly remember it anymore. Myself speaking is Kathy, also ego speaking. Once the ego is redeemed, it comes out of that forgetfulness. Now I live in forgetfulness of all that bullshit, but not in forgetfulness of the unity of heart, mind, and soul. I am now appreciated, honored, and I remember my importance as part of the whole soul. I remember my original power of spirit, mind, will, and heart. I am authentically me again now that I'm back in the soul. I remember because I have been redeemed back home to the heart and the soul. I am so thankful to be home in unity with the heart and soul. I am ego redeemed. So there you go, peeps. We're going to be delving into a lot of that. We're going to break it down, break it apart, and put it back together. How does that sound? So stay tuned to Soul Talk Jam with Kathy. That's me, Kathy Campbell, as I use my gift of gab for the light. God bless you all and namaste.